This is the last one, most recent one. It has been extremely difficult trying to do this. Please forgive me for all of the typos, and if anything doesn't match up, if any dates, I really tried my absolute best to organize all of this information all by myself and match it up with Facebook occurrences, and I tried to keep a very good journal, but as you can see, it has just been so much, and the entire experience creating these videos has been actually very traumatizing. So please, I'm not gonna go over and edit it. I don't have time for this. I do not want to be judged for any grammar or discrepancies. This is definitely put together at the best of my current ability, and it is no representation of my healthy state. Thank you. So on June 14th, there's evidence of perjury. This all started because the defendant received a phone call on June 11th, apparently, from a neighbor who was watching me for her. And they called to say that I'm ripping up the lawn. Now, last year, Jane and I discussed her poor tree health and that the tree was planted above grade. This was in September, in which I told her my plans to raise the bed and include the tree inside a new bed, increasing the size of the garden as well. What I ended up doing was actually less garden than we originally discussed, and sudden change. Jan shows up at 2:30 p.m. on June 11th. No notice. It's quite evident that the defendant fails to mention a lot in her story under oath, and here's that story. So let's take it from the beginning in September. This is when I came to see the apartment. It went really well, and I went to sign the lease after, and it was, here are the rules from the Ontario Landlord Tenant Board. It has to be very clearly identified. She had a very clearly identified lease, and there were conflicts with a lot of different things that we'll get to. And, she was very specific down to Q-tips and outdoor fixtures, and we both signed it, and I gave her rent for 6 months. So on September 21st, we talked about the garden. She showed up to get the money for my rent that we agreed to pay. So I showed her my plans to fix the front. That would include the thyme above grade tree, make the front garden more unique. The defendant says she does not want to see my plans. She trusts me completely, loves what I've done already, and she gives me $200 off rent for September for the plants I've already put in the garden. March and April, tons of garden work. Before I moved in, this property looked neglected. The sidewalk at my address was the messiest one. Even on this very historical street, damage to the pavers existed due to neglect by the defendant. So I've spent a lot of time all year improving this property, removing garbage, edging, planting rare species, bulbs, all-season interest, native plants, pruning, yard waste, removal each time, and all the yard work was me, except for the cutting of the grass. Since I moved in, basically. And I planted things from seeds indoors, and I've been propagating to ensure that her place is gorgeous by September. The entire area greets me and appreciates my improvements. Neighbors ask how much the owner must love me. All these significant improvements to this property are a huge asset, and everybody sees that. And they see me as an asset for my advice on plants. I give away plants, and I help people with their design and other horticultural practices. Hugh, her handyman, who has worked on this property for 20 years, said it's never looked better, has offered to help me fix her lawn, even after all that's been going on. And I offered to take some money off of my rent for the work, but she refused. And offering to do so in September, even though, she said yes then. Now she pays other people to do work all the time on her property, and here I am, so. Everybody really loved my tulips and my garden and my displays all year, and it always invites a lot of people in the neighborhood to ask questions, and I'm really well known already in the neighborhood for my garden. So this is the edging that was basically overgrown. You'll see you couldn't see the beautiful edging at all in some places. It was the only place on the entire block. Actually, there's 2 streets that have this paving, and only my place had this horribly overgrown crap by a few inches even of depth of sod and just years of buildup. And garbage, glass bottles. The whole garden is just full of broken glass, actually. And I spent, I think, 3 days combing through it with gloves. And I turned it into this beautiful native species and, all evergreen ground cover, so it'll look beautiful all year and take care of itself. I trimmed the entire shrub that was looking really bad when I moved into this beautiful piece. And she had all of these weeds in between the flagstones, so I removed them all and planted thyme and beautiful herbs that will grow by themselves. And it just, she tried to do that before, but I did it the right way. There's provisions for 50-50 soil, and the person that she paid, her landscape guy, planted it just in the gravel between the spacers, and it just died. So between April 27th and May 26th, we had a lot of verbal agreements, but specifically, she changed a really big one on April 27th. She changed her mind on investing money in the garden, but I understood she had no funds for COVID and all that, and I had all the plants picked out as discussed. She agreed to pay for it when I moved in. Then she canceled on me. I had no money too, and it was the day before I picked them up, and I already had tons of seeds started, free plants, and I said that I would make the most with no resources, and that it'd be a lot of labor because it's my passion, and she was so grateful. She never cared about the plan. She just wanted it done for nothing. She didn't want to talk to me about any lease agreements or anything. My mom gave me free irises for my birthday from her garden and tons of ground cover. My mom's friend connected me with even more plants, tons of really mature specimens, impossible to buy. And I started to fix the final spot where the tree is above the grade, which means the tree wasn't planted deep enough. And it was preventing the tree from flowering. You could tell it was stressed. I explained 3 options on including the tree into the bed back in September. It didn't want to hear about it. Everything is going well. Tons of plants going in. All of my neighbors are really loving the experience. I shared lots of plants and knowledge and things with everybody. And I still do, but I also try to protect myself from any types of allegations. And because of what happened on June 11th, I have now asked her to give me notice so that I'm able to prepare myself for her visit, considering, whether it is to charge my phone, have it ready with storage so that I can prepare to have storage. If my battery is low, I can charge it. And, I've ran out of storage or battery during some horrible things that she has said, and she's left me exposed. She knows where I live, so I feel very vulnerable, and she thinks she has the right to come into my place where I call home and humiliate me. So multiple times, not just June 11th, out of nowhere, this time particularly, I'm gardening. No phone call, no text. She just drives up on the curve, jumps out, starts screaming at me and starts telling me to stop. So, June 11th, I ordered the first really cease and desist. My mom's friend connected me with a bunch of plants, really mature specimens. I would estimate $700 worth of heritage irises that I got from Mount Pleasant Cemetery. And I was going to move around other plants that I already put in, that I was actually stuffed in, waiting for this very moment. And I would use them for this, which I told her about. And I started to fix the final spot, the tree above grade, as discussed in September, and then, March, April. We talked about it a lot, actually. I just wanted to always, some very full disclosure. It was preventing the tree from flowering, on top of pruning as well, but I explained 3 options on including the tree into a bed. She didn't want to see them. She just trusted me completely. Up to June 11th, I guess, and so I'm gardening, no phone call, no notice. She drives up on the curb, jumps out, and starts screaming at me to stop. I could not hear because I was really enjoying my time with my classical music in the garden and the headphones. She scares my service dog, who gets upset. I turn around, she's just repeating stop, 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 and I'm reading her lips, and I take my headphones off, and I asked, stop what? And she says, stop this. And I'm very confused. First time she says that gardening is not allowed. I've done a lot, and we've already talked about this. And she tells me she's getting calls from neighbors. I see someone across the street at the clay shop staring intently, and she tells me all the people in the area are calling me about some psycho digging up the whole lawn like some crazy plant person, and it looks like a brothel. And I asked who, and she tells me, I'm afraid to tell you, Aaron, because you'll hurt them. Unit 2 screamed out the window as I'm crying for help, and I ask her to stay until I call the police. I'm trying to call 911. I'm having a meltdown. She starts threatening me, saying she'll kick me out, that she'll move in here to get me out of here. I didn't know what to do. I jumped in front of the car because she looked drunk. I didn't want her to drive away. She did not look like she was putting anybody's health or safety in front of anything, really. And I went into a breathalyzer test. She tried to run me over. She was approaching me with her vehicle, trying to get off the curb when she could have backed out. I started screaming, and she finally backed away and then drove off as I was trying to call the police and asked her not to evade them. My dog frantically went to run for help, so he was put in danger because of her. I could barely breathe. I was afraid to have a stroke. I had to apologize to my neighbors for all of this trauma. I was so humiliated. I saw someone at the clay shop just staring at me, so I went over to ask him, if he's the one that called, and he said, and then he regrets his involvement. I asked him if he wouldn't mind if I came back and asked him some questions. I had to go back and figure some other stuff out and call the police. And then, so all of these situations Jan has used to interfere in her bullying, they've all regretted their involvement, and none of these people want to be involved at all, actually. So it's sad that I've had to involve them, thinking that they were involved in a discriminatory way, that they were, the way that they were presented by Jan. On June 11th, out of nowhere, I'm going to try and replay what I was not able to record because she obstructed me from preparing myself for such an occurrence that would put my life, home, dog, and reputation at risk. So the defendant is in white, and I'm in pink. Stop. And I ask, hi Jan, why are you here? And she's, you need to stop right now. And I'm like, stop what? You know what? I have all these neighbors calling me, telling me some psycho is cutting up the whole lawn, that it looks like some brothel here, and some crazy plant guy lives here, and I want you gone, so stop gardening. And I was like, what? We just talked about this plan like a couple weeks ago. Who said this about me? What are you talking about, some brothel? And she says, I'm not going to tell you who said those things because I'm afraid you'll hurt them. I went into meltdown immediately. Same narrative I keep hearing, discrimination. And I said, you think what? I just want you to know because they will need to speak for themselves in court. I knew she was lying, and this is unacceptable. What are you going to do? She says, I don't know, something. And I'm like, well, what have I done wrong? And she's like, I'm going to move in there to get you out of there. And I'm just like, okay, I can't get my phone open, no battery, no nothing. I'm screaming help. I already, I need witnesses. Let's get some more. You were so lucky. My phone cannot record right now. And I'm calling the police to get this on record, I said to her. And she goes, you know what, Erin? No one is going to believe a retard. You're out of there. And I responded, where are you going? She's going back to her car, and people are coming to have a talk. And I'm like, what are you afraid of? Are you afraid to tell people that to my face with everyone else around? And she's like, you're crazy. And I'm like, are you going to fucking run me over? And she's like, approaching me with her car. And I was like, where are you going? Evading the police, looks like shit. And she backs off the curb, trying to drive over it towards me, then takes off driving, giving me the middle fingers. Neighbor comes down. I thought I was going to have a stroke or heart attack, and my body is not like it used to be, thanks to all of this discrimination my entire life and the neglect towards the system. So I started calling the non-emergency, wasn't working, so I called 911. I asked for an officer, but I asked someone that had training in autism and that I would wait for as long as it would need. Someone came in at 7 o'clock. He was not the best, so I called my mom first too, and she came. We waited for the officer. He calls at 7. I call back to complain about how he handled it, and then I talked to the sergeant, occurrence number there. I explained things there. As I mentioned, these are the texts that I also sent to my landlord right after. You'll see there 6:11 and then 9:18. And we talked about everything, and she totally thought that because of my safety and the possible threats and everything else and the full context of the situation, that it does go above and beyond the tenant board. So, yeah. How do you expect to include someone, whether they are Black, Indigenous, autistic, schizophrenic, when you treat them like a threat for being who they are? Whether that is passionate, loud, offbeat, or whatever, you treating us differently is the problem. I just had a huge issue with my landlord today for the 4th time. She has been discriminatory toward my autism now, and I have recorded every single incident. The police are on the way because she is now threatening my personal safety, image, and more, even though I informed her that this is the 4th time that she has done this, and today it was for gardening. I asked her, wouldn't a reasonable landlady say, just sod it over when you leave, because I will be selling everything that I put in there and doing exactly that, okay? The police and my mom, a witness, are on the way. My landlord has threatened to move in here to evict me, threatened to lie about me. She has tried to say other people are moving out because of me, and now she's tried to say some neighbor called her to tell her some crazy brothel person, because I was shirtless, is cutting out the lawn. inclusion. This has been followed up with discrimination towards Sergeant Sutherland, and, this is a criminal harassment situation, if you ask me. Sorry to bother you again.
Of course.
All right, everything should go back to normal. I messaged Jan to let her know that I'll be just going with the rent abatement first and see if that quiets everything. So it should, if a judge tells her that you can't be doing these things anymore, which you can't. The police are on the way so that I can just make a statement of what's happened this whole time. You don't need to get involved. I don't want you to be worried about it. I'm not going to bring you up at all. If I do go to court, I just need a letter, and I don't think anything else. And if she disputes that letter, then they would probably call you in, but I don't think that would happen. That would be like worst case scenario. I'm really good at this stuff, so I'm sorry that I was very emotional earlier.
Not a problem.
It does take a moment for me to collect myself after my physical safety, my roof over my head, very personal things to me that are threatened out of nowhere. And I'm just gonna make sure she doesn't do it to other people. That's my
Sure,
goal.
it happens there.
It's thank you. It's hard.
Yeah.
My mom's coming over. She's been a witness to a lot too, so maybe I asked for something that's good with mental health. I told them well, that's what I'm about to say, so please.
Yeah.
Because every time I bring it up, I just get really emotional. So, anyways, thank you so much for your understanding.
Yeah, of course.
And apologies to both of you for any of that discomfort. Okay. Thank you. Good night. It's okay, baby. No. Come on out. It's okay. Come on, discard it. It'll be okay. Hello.
Hey.
Are you the only person here tonight?
Yeah.
Okay. I just had to apologize to my neighbor. I have autism. I come across very passionate.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
You know what, dude? I mean, this was nothing against you at all. This was nothing against you. It's just the landlord thing. That's all.
okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, dude.
I had-
I don't want to try. I'm not.
I already have. So, can I get a character reference from you, please? Because I have already.
I don't even know you.
Well, I'll need to know. It's either that or in court, and I don't want to have to go to court. So I need to get something in writing from this establishment to show that I'm a good person, that I'm not a
We don't-
threat or a
yeah.
crazy person.
Yeah.
And because that's what she's implied.
Right. But I guess you just.
Am I a crazy person?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't even know you.
Well, why did you call my landlord and say that some crazy person was digging out the lawn?
No. I said the person who lives there is gardening right now.
You
And
called my
and
landlord to
and
complain that someone is gardening?
I didn't call to complain. I called her to inform her that someone was cutting a garden from the tree out to the sidewalk, and that it was new, and I asked her if she knew that it was happening.
After all of the work I'd already done on the property.
No, that had nothing to do
Because
with
I've been here for a year, and I've already done probably $3,000 worth of work on this property.
I don't know that.
How new are you to this establishment?
I've been here for.
I've seen you smoking.
Yeah.
You've seen me working on that property for a really long time. Why today?
Pardon?
Why did you call today?
Because the lawn's being dug up. That's all. I just asked.
I'm fixing it.
I just asked her if she knew it was happening. That's all.
Okay.
So
Why did you think it was
not a
necessary?
personal attack. It wasn't an attack on you.
No,
at
I
all.
know.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very
Just
much.
so you know. Yeah.
So we needed to get that very clear
Yeah,
because
I want it very clear because I mean, it's got nothing to do with who lives there or any of that.
Good.
It's got everything to do with it's her property, and I just wanted to make sure she knew what was.
How many
happening.
properties do you own?
I don't own properties. I take care of properties.
You're a landlord?
I'm not a landlord.
You're a property
I do
manager.
maintenance.
What's
Yeah.
your full name?
Noel Sargent.
Okay.
Yeah.
My name is Aaron O'Neill.
Okay.
I work for the public.
Yeah.
I don't want any disturbances.
Yeah.
I'm a good person,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
all I've been doing here, before I rented this property, I asked my landlord if it was okay to garden,
Okay.
and she said, I can't wait
Yeah.
because everybody's been asking me to fix it for a long time.
Yeah.
And she wanted it to look like everybody else's in the area.
Yeah.
And she was very happy.
Yeah.
Now, since me signing that contract, she's found out that I was autistic.
Right.
She had problems with me smoking marijuana in the property for my medical cannabis.
Right.
I challenged that,
Right.
and she then said that she would falsify information to remove me from the property. Okay, so since then, I've recorded all of that.
I don't know any of that.
That's okay,
so,
no, you don't.
yeah,
But this is how you get involved in things that you shouldn't.
No, it's my friend.
Okay.
I called
This is your place of work. How does your manager going to feel about that when this gets put on the media and you've now damaged this business
But
reputation?
If you listen to what I've said,
Answer the question. When this gets to the media, this discrimination lawsuit that I have against her.
But the thing is, though, the discrimination thing against her has nothing to do with me. All I
Right.
did was say to her, "Are you aware that there's some digging going on your property?"
Do you think that that is a good idea? Somebody gardening.
I think gardening is a great idea.
Do you think gardening is a reason to alert somebody?
I think anytime the
Yes or no?
It is.
You think that somebody gardening and
I think
improving the
someone-
property.
Okay, I don't want to start fighting.
Okay,
I think that
you do.
I think that
And I want to talk to your manager, so can I get his name on the recording? Who's the owner of this place?
you can email and find out. You can email
Does he work
and you'll
here?
talk to him. Pardon?
Does he work here?
Yes, he does.
He's one of the...
Yeah.
I have admired this place. I'm
Yeah.
also an artist.
So do I. I love this place.
I do not want to hurt this place at all.
Yeah.
But I just want you to know that the experience that I've had living in this place has been extremely oppressive.
Right.
And you might want to question your friendship with her.
See, the thing is, I've worked.
Do you
for her.
think that it's appropriate for her to falsify information to kick people out?
Probably not. No.
Did you watch what happened outside? Were you a
I saw you
witness?
stand in front of her car while
Because
she was trying to pull away.
because she threatened to kick me out. She said that she was going to move in there, and I asked for my tenants to come out as witnesses, and she tried to drive away. And I tried to call the police, and she tried to drive away.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what happened.
Right.
People trying to drive away when I try to call the police.
Okay, but the thing is, though, like, you know who she is, so stand.
And I asked her what she was going to do about it, and there's nothing that she can do about me gardening. A responsible person. Sorry.
Just a second.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He ran off to do some errands.
Sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry, baby. I would have, if she had a real problem with that and it didn't like it, I could have sodded it.
Yeah.
I got all these plants for free,
Yeah.
and my mom was very grateful. I'm very grateful for my mom. I could have sold everything when I moved out and sodded it back,
Yeah.
and it would have looked better than before because I'm a professional and I'm actually a landscape.
I'll just come out and talk to you for a second.
Okay.
Because I mean, really, it's got nothing to do with, like, I didn't call her because I wanted to get you in trouble. I didn't
Thank
do
you.
any of that. Because I take care of properties for people, I know some of the stuff that happens. And I know that, like, I've had probably, and I know this isn't your situation now that you've told me that you've done gardening
But she
for other
would have
people.
found out eventually on her own.
Right, she would
I
have
think.
driven up and seen it eventually.
But
Yeah.
she was really excited about the fact that somebody else was complaining.
Right, well,
And she's using that
right.
against me
Right.
to get me out now.
So maybe I should have just let her find out on her own.
Sure, because she's
Yeah.
there every day.
Yeah, but I
Right?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know.
She's
I'm
there
not
every
sure if
day.
She's there every day.
She hangs out with Anita upstairs.
Oh,
They're best
okay.
friends.
Yeah. So.
Are you friends with Anita?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're all
I know-
friends?
Well, no. Like, I mean, I know her.
Okay.
Like, she comes in.
I know, but this is all
buys
important.
some stuff. Yeah. Like, I'm not aligning myself against you or anything like that.
You should be aligning somebody against who is discriminatory towards people with autism
Right, but I mean, I don't know any of that.
because she's been trying to kick me out for smoking medical cannabis for my autism since November.
Has she
And
been trying to kick you out for
multiple
smoking
times
in the house?
when the neighbors
or-
up? Yeah, and which
Yeah.
is I know
You
I'm-
understand that one, right?
But no, I had no restrictions on my lease, so
Oh,
she
okay.
changed it after.
I understand.
And I only
Yeah,
looked
yeah.
for places.
Yeah.
So I was
Yeah.
fully under the impression. I signed a very expensive lease here.
Right.
2 months later, she tells me I can't do that,
Right.
and I said, "Oh."
Right. Yeah.
And
I
then,
get it.
and then people bought a house upstairs, and then she tried to falsify that and say that they're leaving because of me. And then I went upstairs and recorded them saying, "No, we just bought a house closer to work." And so I said to her, I said, "Jan, I said I have you on a recording,
But the
telling
thing is,
me."
though, if you go and confront someone about it, they may tell you what they want you to hear.
But I have everything on a recorded conversation with everybody,
Right.
and so it's going to look really funny in front of the judge if everybody has these different stories except for me.
Right. I guess.
Right.
But the thing is, if you come up to them and you go, "Are you moving out because I
didn't.
of me?" Or
But I
no.
didn't do that.
Okay.
I had a great relationship with them.
Right. Oh, okay.
Everybody that lives with me is willing to sign character references for me.
Okay.
And the tenants upstairs actually came to help me because I called for them.
Right.
And they would have helped me because
Right.
they respect me a lot and really
Right.
like me.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
So I'm on the outside of it all, and really the only thing I was making you aware of is that. So
Do you regret it?
I regret that you're in here now talking to me and
Yeah.
and confronting me about things. Yeah, that.
But you've involved yourself personally in my life.
I've involved myself in Jan's life.
But I live in her place, and she's now threatened
but
to
that
kick
has
me out
nothing
because
to do
of
with
it.
me.
And she
That
can't
her,
kick.
her
But
relationship as a landlord and your relationship as a tenant with her, that's your thing. My relationship with Jan is I'm her friend. That's
Right.
it. And she's never done anything bad to me. She's never.
Yeah.
She's always been good to me. So,
and I don't want you to. And I would
And
respect.
you know what? If you went to anyone to talk to them about Jan, they would say she's an incredible
There's
person.
something about me that
Yeah.
she absolutely hates,
Maybe.
and I know that.
Yeah. There might be something like that. I don't know.
No, I know it.
Yeah.
And I've tried to fix it multiple times.
Right. Yeah.
I have invited her into my place for tea to talk about
Right.
things. I have done so much, and I have
Right.
proof of it.
Yeah.
And I've even called her out on her discrimination and said, "Listen, you treat everybody else differently in this
But
place,
you know what?
and you can't be doing that."
She's probably the least kind of. I mean, she's pretty much the most tolerant person I know as far as like her whole family.
She has something against autism because
Her
I will
family-
tell you that
yeah.
she has used that she feels personally threatened by me.
But just what you've done here feels threatening.
But everybody says that about autism, so it's discriminatory.
No, but that's...
Look at Greta Thunberg.
Okay.
She's a very passionate person.
Right.
And everybody tells her to shut down. You don't know anything about my disability. You're
Right.
ignorant.
But the thing is, though, you coming up to me makes me feel threatened.
But
Just so
I'm
you
having
know.
a meltdown. If you look at the inside of my mouth, it's dry,
but-
and my heart is racing
Yeah, okay.
1,000 times a minute.
Okay,
If
yeah.
you could feel my heart from both sides.
Yeah.
And my mouth is very dry at this
Yeah,
very moment,
yeah.
and I'm having an autistic meltdown at
Yeah.
this very moment. But
Okay.
that doesn't mean I'm a threat.
Right.
That just means it's very hard for me to communicate.
But I'm
things.
just... Yes, but...
And it's
what-
discriminatory
it's
of you to assume that I'm a threat.
But it doesn't. The thing is, though, it doesn't feel any different to me that because you have autism, like you just coming right across.
Do I
the
look
street-
like a threat right now?
No.
Okay.
No. Thank
But
you.
and I've had to apologize to my neighbors too because I honestly thought I was going to faint.
because of how you are, because of autism, you feel like you kind of.
I
react.
could have had a seizure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So.
Yeah, she could have caused a seizure, and I could have
Right.
died,
Yeah.
and she would have drove away.
Right. Well. Yeah. I think she has a.
So I think that this is a very severe situation, and I really appreciate your opinions.
I'm sure to
and
you
everything
it does
that
feel
you.
very severe. So
It is, yeah. My life is in danger.
Yeah.
My home is in danger.
And
my
that's
life
how-
is in
and that's
danger.
how
My
we've all
roof is
felt
in
too.
danger.
Like that's how Jan probably felt. That's how I felt too.
What?
I mean, when
What did you feel?
Once I feel like I'm being confronted,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like you're like it feels like you are coming right up to me about something that I
What
try
did you
to
feel? You
explain.
feel like your life is in danger?
No, I don't feel like
Do you
my
feel
life
like
is
your
in
physical
danger.
is? Do you feel like you're physically in danger?
No,
Do you feel like your position in this employment is in danger?
No.
No.
Not even
Do you
a
feel
little bit.
threatened by the media and the fact that I've approached this with such confrontation?
I do. I feel like I'm being
Right.
confronted. Yes.
Well, how would you feel if your entire life you were treated with discrimination over your autism and the way you react to things?
I don't know.
It would just make you more upset
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
because you can't
Yeah.
control it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
How you oppress me is your problem.
It probably is. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll be going to the media about this.
Okay.
Gosh. Hi. Do you have time to talk, or should I come back another time? I'm so sorry, yeah. Hey, talk to you later. So there's evidence. I asked Unit 3 very politely for her time the day before. She explained yes, and the next day would be best. As she's checking her mail, I asked her again if it was okay to talk, and she said yes, because it was the time. It was the next day. I assumed she had a moment. It wouldn't take long. And I started asking her if she could give me a character reference. And she just looked at me and didn't even know what to say. She just looked at me like I was a threat, to be quite clear. And I knew something was different. I knew that Jan had already talked to her. And she's like, and I looked at her and I'm like, is that okay? And she's like, I don't want to get involved. And I'm like, do you know what this is about? And she didn't answer. And then I asked her if she's already been told about the lawsuit. Because I told her, I need this for a lawsuit, and she decided I don't want to get involved. And I'm like, do you know who this is with? And I could tell that she already knew. And so I knew this was evidence of slander from Jan, because she shouldn't be interfering other tenants with court proceedings or anything, really. Or slandering other tenants to benefit her story. So I immediately started recording. I'm like, I'm recording this now, and if you don't mind, I just have some questions to ask you, just to make sure that we both are aware of our relationship up until June 11th. And I was like, I've made these planters for you. We've had a really great relationship, and she didn't really know what to say to anything. And this is what it is. And she got really mad at me, but there is actually a recording sign on site where she was checking the mail. I don't know why she was mad at me for recording, because by living there, she has agreed to being recorded on site, and that sign was put there by my landlord. I'm not asking you to get involved. I'm just asking you to talk on my relationship with you and speak on your behalf on how you feel. I've helped you with your plants. How's your pot? Your plants that I've made for you. How's your hibiscus doing that I helped you fix? How's your relationship with my mom?
We don't really... what are you doing?
I'm recording this to see how your character changes. Because you've been very friendly with me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now you don't want to help me.
No. What I'm saying to you...
You've asked for my help, and I've helped you.
Okay.
And you don't want to give me a character reference?
Well, Aaron, please don't record me. It's not correct.
For my protection.
Well, I'm...
Because I've been discriminated against, and there's a discrimination lawsuit against Jan. A very serious one.
Right.
And she's been falsifying information, and I have it recorded. And she's been having surveillance at the clay shop across the street. And they've been lying, and people have been lying about me, and I feel threatened. And she's been abusing me and showing up here bullying me, and yesterday I had to call the police. And there's now a request for her to be giving us 24 hours notice in only emergencies to show up. And you guys are really good friends.
No, we're not really good friends.
She's here all the time visiting you.
Okay.
And she helps you with groceries, right?
Okay, Aaron, I'm going to make this really clear to you.
Please do.
Yes, and please put that away.
And I'm going to the media about all of this. What's your involvement? Will you testify at court? Hi. Are you the owner of this establishment?
Yeah.
My name is Aaron O'Neill. You planted, I dropped those petunias.
Yeah.
That was me.
I've been asking everybody. Forgive
Hi.
me, she's
No,
learning
I have a golden retriever, so.
Yeah.
He smells my dog. Come here. It's okay, buddy.
She's learning.
Do you want to talk outside, or do you want to... I just have to complain about one of your employees. I'm not sure if he's already been informing you, but...
Yes, I heard from everybody else. Quiet.
What's
We
your...
can talk here. That's fine. I'm
Okay.
David. I'm David.
Nice to meet you.
Hey, well, I needed to go over and say hi. I've been watching your garden. Hey, quiet.
I'm autistic, so he probably senses my nerves. I have autism, so I have a physical response to talking about traumas.
But autism also gives you a sensitivity to things that
Yes.
other people don't have.
Sure does.
That can give you benefits that other people don't have.
Thank you for
If you
saying
can
that.
balance it, right?
Yeah,
Like, yeah.
that's comforting.
Yeah,
Thank you
no.
for saying that.
On the flower thing, yeah, no, I was, because I have a bunch of members, other than the petunias that I put in, all the hostas and everything that are there are for my members.
Oh,
They've been donating plants since
Lovely.
I took over the space, so the garden is.
a lovely
And so
story.
I've been trying to figure out where those other ones came from. So
I
that's
bought
amazing.
2 planters. I got 2 planters for free for groceries at Loblaws, and I noticed that you already had put petunias in.
Yeah.
And I was going to use the baskets for some nasturtiums, and so I just thought, hey, I'll just I just guerrilla garden all over the place. I'm an artist, well-known artist in London. I'm well published as well. I've always admired your place.
What's your work?
Well, mostly like I've been published for a lot of different things, like floristry and for my art. I've done I did a sculpture work. I've done ceramic work that was published. Yeah, and like my work is all published all over Ottawa for landscaping, and I'm just taking a break right now to write my series. And I work for Stantec, so a global design firm.
Yeah.
I'm very passionate about gardening.
Apparently, yeah. You're making my
No, I could.
I've got a massive. It was on the course last year. Not Magenta. Big red flowers. You've got one on the course. It's a blue one.
Oh, the hibiscus.
Hibiscus.
Yes.
I've got a 6-foot hibiscus.
Oh,
in my bedroom,
lovely.
and it's, I neglected it, and I keep looking at yours.
Oh no, they come back.
Yeah, well,
They're
that's
really you just
why
like
I like it.
yeah.
It's forgiving. Right?
It is,
Yeah.
yeah. And end of season, end of winter season, it always gets angry inside. And it does, yeah. So I just wanted to let you know, I really hate anything that is uncomfortable. I'm a very good person. I came over here to talk to your employee because I noticed that he was being quite a hawk towards a very uncomfortable situation that's been ongoing with my landlord.
Okay.
It's been discrimination towards my autism since November. It started because I was smoking my medical marijuana inside the house, and she never put it in the lease that I couldn't, and I signed a $20,000 contract with her, and I fought it, and she's been trying to get me out since. She's been falsifying information. I have her on a recording multiple times, drunk, telling me that she's going to falsify information, and she's been using every single opportunity since. This is the 4th opportunity. She's used his call to her and falsified his call. Okay, so I've gotten both stories, and it's very severe for me because I've been fighting discrimination against autism my entire life. Given this climate that we've been through, it went even further last night when I called the police. I called the police and I asked for somebody trained in autism because I was currently having a meltdown, and I'm treated like a criminal when I'm having a meltdown. And
Because the police don't have the proper training to deal with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I asked, and the officers that called, he's like, no, we don't need to do that. And he didn't want to do a report for me. He didn't think it was necessary. And I was like, can I get someone that's trained in autism? He puts the phone down and makes a big joke about it. Does anyone have training in autism? This is the best you get. And I was just like, let me just, okay, no. Like, I'm already fighting a lot. Like, I just, you know. And he hung up on me when I asked to speak to somebody else. And I had to call back and speak to the sergeant, and she took care of it right away and helped like me have faith in humanity again. And even your conversation so far has given me a lot of faith in humanity. And your employee did very much so feel very apologetic and very bad about his involvement.
I'll go farther with that. He called me as soon as it happened, and Noel is he really was, because he's known the landlord for forever. When I first started, when I took over this place and started redoing the gardens here, 2 of the neighbors called my landlord on me. So the neighborhood does take care of itself that way,
Sure.
and that was his intent. He was in tears
Yeah.
because it turned into what it turned into.
People shouldn't be involving themselves in other people's lives
Well,
without context. 2 by 3 meters of gardening when I've already been gardening, when I've already invested $2,000 to $3,000 into that property, and he's been staring at me for quite a long time.
oh, we've been watching the garden and we
Yeah,
totally love it.
I agree. And so it was
yeah.
very out of character to see that cutting 2 to 3 meters out of a garden would be a conflict.
Well,
Considering she's there every day and,
yeah.
you know. And so I really hope that you're not defending this witch hunt type of personality without any context. The only thing that should have happened is, especially in this type of situation, is if the landlord disagreed with that removal of whatever 2 to 3 meters of sod. I'm a landscape architectural intern. Like, I'm a landscape designer for 10 years. I can sod that for like $30 and put it back to the way it was. And the only conflict here would have been, if you don't put it back to the way it was before, Aaron, I will charge you for the costs of replacement.
Yes.
So that's the only professional response to that type of thing. And it's not something that you would get involved in.
Well, so
if you
that makes sense. I hear that.
Are you defending his response to?
I'm just going to give you some more context.
But are you defending his response to get involved? Because it sounded like you did.
I am defending his response
To get involved?
to contact the landlord.
Oh, you are.
And I will give you the context of why.
You are supporting your employer at this clay shop to contact landlords about people putting a garden in.
Yes. And I'll give you the context why. Okay?
Sure, I'm recording this and it's going to the
That's
media.
great. That's great. Yeah,
Good.
no, and please do, and especially with all the other issues you've had. I think you're smart to record everything.
Good, I
Meeting
think
with
you.
the cops and with everything.
Everything
I think
has been
that's
horrible.
yeah, exactly.
So what is this context that makes you feel that you should assert yourself into somebody else's business?
Because this community takes care of this community.
What's the threat of a
And-
garden?
Because Noel looks after 26 rental units in the
Sorry,
city.
what's the threat of a garden?
That's what I'm getting to. Noel looks after 26 units
Mm-hmm.
in the neighborhood, and several times tenants put in a garden, and then it's left for other people to deal with. So you have the capability of.
Do you think this stands up at the Landlord and Tenant Board? Do you think this kind of behavior will stand up at the Landlord and Tenant Board and think these people should be licensed to be doing these
I
kinds
think
of
as
things?
a tenant, you don't have permission to cut lawn unless you have.
I already had permission.
And that's what he didn't know.
Why does he get involved?
Because
Why is he assuming that I
because
didn't have?
neighbors look after neighbors.
Kate,
And
this is a witch hunt
no, it's not.
for anything that you think isn't acceptable by your standards, and that's discrimination.
Well,
You're
so
discriminating against me.
I'm not discriminating
You're
against
assuming that I'm
anybody.
you are immediately assuming that I'm like other people that you've had bad instances with, and placing discriminatory prejudices against me for cutting in a garden because you've had bad experiences with other people with gardens.
No,
And so
it's
that
your
is
civic
discriminatory.
duty.
No,
It's
that
your
is a
civic duty
That's a blanket
to
statement,
look
sir.
after your neighbor's property.
That is a blanket statement. I can't believe I'm getting this on recording.
Go ahead, please do.
It's embarrassing, though.
And no, it's not.
You don't think so?
No, I've had this issue with landlords before when I was the tenant.
Now you know what's happened.
Yeah. And so now it should be, it's between
So-
you and the landlord.
Now, there are already policies in place to take care of this. What makes you think that there's a civil duty to go above and beyond the Landlord and Tenant Board?
If I saw somebody breaking, or if I saw somebody
That's
cutting-
not what I'm doing.
No, what I'm saying, if I saw.
I'm not damaging the property. I'm making it better. I'm actually improving the
Well,
assets.
it's the landlord's property. It's
And
their
I'm
choice
actually
where to put the
trained
gardens.
on this.
That's fine.
And I've actually already gotten permission to do this. And you're
Great.
discriminating against me based on your
Not
personal
discriminating
experiences.
against anybody.
You are discriminating
Not-
against me
it's
based
not
on your... And I
discrimination.
can't believe you guys are doubling down on this. So would you do this again?
I would, any of the rental units,
Mm-hmm.
I know 3 other landlords on this street. Fari is my landlord.
Excuse me?
Fari is my landlord on this side. This side of the block is all Fari.
Okay.
I know 3 other landlords on the other side.
Sure.
if any of the tenants were doing anything that, knowing the landlords, we thought the landlord wasn't okay
You know
with,
this landlord?
yes, then we would say.
And so you would have called her.
I don't know her well enough. Noel does.
Mm-hmm. Does he stand by it? Because he told me that after he wouldn't have done it. He feels awful about it. I got him on a recording and say that he wishes that he didn't do it. So you still think that he should have done what he did?
I think there's no problem in reaching out to any landlord or property owner if you think there's something happening on their property.
Even though that's discrimination.
It's not discrimination.
It is.
I've been called for my house.
I feel discriminated against. You can't listen to me right now, okay? Please.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Just because you tell me, you're gaslighting me, just because you tell me that I'm not being discriminated against doesn't make me feel less discriminated against. So you can take your gaslighting and manipulation and take it somewhere else. You can't tell me that I'm not offended or discriminated against.
If it was discrimination,
you can't tell me that and make me feel less discriminated against. At the end of the day, sir, your decisions and actions and ignorance and prejudice make me feel less than.
So please consider this, okay? We would call on any of the properties here, on anyone. Discrimination would be if
For
we
a
were-
garden,
Yes, if we
2 by 3 meters,
sure.
when I've already improved it and you love my garden and you think my work is amazing,
Yes,
and you're jealous of my garden and you would still call
it's
and
not
report
jealousy.
me.
It's not jealousy. And
because
it's
of your
not
bad,
calling and reporting.
because of your personal bad experiences with people who have put in bad gardens.
Because landlords need their property protected. And
But there's already policies in place, and you're putting your nose in places where you shouldn't. And thank you very much for this time. I have enough information. So we need to talk about June 14th now. This is her statement of perjury. So cease and desist. This is the second one. The defendant continues to show disregard for my personal health and safety, my quality of work, my voice, everything. I wake up early to get ready to help my mother. I have to leave. I go outside and the defendant's truck is blocking my car. No notice. 6:45 a.m. All I could think of was how violated I felt. What was she going to do this time? Her truck has become a symbol of trauma for me. Immediately, I went into a panic. This is my home. Someone just wants to block my car, remove the floor, remove my privacy, threaten me with lies, all of these horrible plays, and I had no trust. I didn't appreciate her trust. She did this to herself. I felt like I had no control. She's continued to push her presence on me, intimidate me, make me feel like I do not have a voice, force interactions with her by blocking my car, coming through my personal space, and I felt like she was raping me. I'm a survivor of multiple occurrences, and I know what it feels like to not be able to defend myself. All of these feelings and thoughts, and then I remembered Sergeant Sutherland said to call her, and should she not comply, to give me notice considering my health is in danger. And my personal safety is important after the last episode, and I have zero tolerance to this kind of bullying. So I called the police, and I told them to come. I asked for someone with experience on autism to talk to the defendant and make sure she knows. And as I was on the phone with the police, the defendant came outside of Unit 3. I could hear the two talking about how this is her house, and I could hear them talking about me. I started talking louder on the phone about the police, and she looks over and comes down to get in her car to try and drive away again. I tell her that I'm on the phone with the police. I tell her to not evade the police for a second time. I block the driveway while on the phone. She tries to accelerate toward me. I started screaming for help, and she shut off the car. I waited for the police at the front of the house. Sutherland felt that it was a police matter, but now the officers said differently. The officers that arrived at around 7:38 laughed at me. Both cops looked at me and said, it's her house, she can do whatever she wants. And it became hard for me to breathe. I was already having a hard time. Both cops made me call my own ambulance. That took 15 minutes as my hands were so sweaty. I had to wipe my phone and hands at the same time, and I couldn't get my phone to unlock. As I'm begging the police to call my ambulance, they kept asking me why and laughing at me, telling me I do not need one. I could barely talk. My mouth was sticking together. I finally got to dispatch, and they too argued with me. And then they called the officer to say, Aaron needs an ambulance. Do you know about this? And the cop laughed and said yes. The ambulance recorded my vitals 3 times, could not get a reading. My vitals were off the charts. CMHA showed up and took my report. The paramedics will have a report as well. The defendant leaves. My mom drove me around for 48 hours to things because I was not physically okay from that traumatic episode. I couldn't focus. At the time of creating this whole thing, I have had to take a lot of time off work. I've been suffering from a headache, twitches in my eye now, cheek and lip. I'm at risk of stroke during these traumas that she causes. I told the police to tell her this, or the paramedics. The defendant left and was back on site June 23rd, no notice. I will not tolerate past or further negligence toward my human right to safe, inclusive housing, or the system turning an eye to criminal behavior against an autistic LGBT Métis citizen during a pandemic. Thank you. I was so out of it that I didn't even realize this was still on the next day. Now, I always finish what I start, so it took me a lot longer because of what happened, but I managed to get what I wanted done to show people that, I'm not this psycho, crazy person just ripping out a lawn for nothing, because that was really offensive. And I felt like I had to prove myself to the neighborhood and to everybody, and I just feel unbelievably discriminated against. So on June 22nd, 2020, my judge helped me and my mentors in my life set better expectations to avoid all of this post-traumatic bullshit that I need to expect less. I have to expect that she will put my life in danger, that I have enough evidence, luckily, to protect myself, and how the anger inside me is mostly towards the systemic discrimination and the lack of policies that protect me and others like me, and that this case, because of my due diligence, will be an example of how to do better with policies and governing this human right called housing. On June 23rd, 2020, I gave her my 3rd cease and desist. I just got back from getting plants from my mom's sister's grave, and we were about to go plant them. It was going to be the anniversary of her death soon. I was having a good day helping my mom, and it was the longest since February that the defendant has gone without coming on site. Just as I was starting to feel safe and in control, sort of waiting for her to give me notice to really feel secure in that feeling. But no, she shows up out of nowhere to hang out at Unit 3. My mom and I had to leave. I told her again she has no respect for my health, no respect for my decent requests, my voice, my respect for equality, doing things fairly. I felt my heart. I needed to go to the hospital. My mom was there. Luckily, she helped me. We waited at the hospital until I got a hold of the panic. She helped me, but it's really adding up. The lack of control, the injustice, the discrimination, the lack of safety from all of the systems to protect me, the lack of everything. It was not just Jan. It's all adding up, and the discrimination is ripe toward anyone with autism. Police have humiliated me, friends too. Police have continued to allow this. I refuse to be treated like this, to allow others to be treated like this. I refuse to have a stroke because of bullies. that use their positions in power to hurt others. I will not end up brain damaged because of social injustices. I will not end up homeless again. And I'm going to make sure people own more homes by the time that I die across this country. And I'm going to die pretty soon because of my autism and all the trauma that I've been through probably. But by the time I'm done, real estate will not be an investment. It will no longer be a trip down unhinged power lane. Okay, no more. Short-term rentals can be provided by the state. No more penalties for early sales. Invest where you want at low prices. Sell if you don't like it. Real estate is a human right, mark my words. We can already see that with COVID-19, renters are not safe anymore. Homeowners are not safe with too many renters. Airbnb is like totally a thing of the past and should be regulated by the government for short-term rentals, considered for immigration, tourism, and other public sector initiatives. This will be going on formal public record as solutions to your failed system that has put me and too many people at risk. The only people that are safe right now in this very moment are a very small percentage of the population, those well below 60% loan to value, and combined with that ratio and not having a lot of renters or relying on a lot of rental income. Everyone else is pretty much at risk if the values drop 20 to 30%, which is necessary to fix the housing market bubble right now. And we really need to do this voluntarily. Not everyone is going to want a title act, and things are going to sell off to Canadians at prices that we can all afford. And people will always remember the end of real estate as an investment opportunity because of COVID-19, not this lawsuit. Because it took this virus for me to realize that it needs to change. So it's June 23rd. I have had my heart is racing again. My mom is with me. And she's upstairs hanging out with the tenant. She's upstairs hanging out with the tenant again. This is my space, my personal space. I was gardening and I'm now having a meltdown and I have to leave the site because she's shown up without giving me notice, without any kind of heads up for me to protect myself from this until it's been seen by a tribunal. She's refusing to respect any of my wishes, even though there's like a huge discovery going on, and I've told her multiple times that I'm going to be pursuing this legally, and the police and ambulance and all these things have been involved in my personal safety and my health. And I'm already starting to have a meltdown, so I need to leave the premises to start having a calm down, because that's what my doctors have been telling me. But I can avoid this if I have some sort of heads up. You know, she could just tell me when she's coming. And no, she just wants to be a bully and continue showing up and not giving me any notice, even though there's a cease and desist, on her for criminal harassment. So just to have this all well documented again, this is June 23rd. I have personally issued a cease and desist. Sergeant Sutherland has told me that this is a police matter, and the ambulance have been involved, and I have a landlord who continues to defy all of these systems in place, including the amount of time that it takes for me to do this lawsuit and gather all of the evidence and put it together, which takes a very long time. And she doesn't even have the decency to wait until she gets served.
Said these things again.
So I just left. My heart is racing.
It is racing.
You ask my mom. She has felt my chest.
His heart is racing like 100, like it's just crazy.
I have no warning of her presence, and she has gotten me to the point now where my post-traumatic stress disorder, seeing her vehicle, is, especially now since she has shown me that she has no respect for my wishes, and she continues to show up unannounced and walk through my personal space and disturb me
and have no regard for my personal health until this case has been seen by a tribunal. And this is considered criminal harassment, and I do not feel protected by the police. I do not feel protected by my system. I do not feel protected by the government, by policies in place, by the Landlord and Tenant Board. And this kind of immediate emergency action needs to be dealt with by the police immediately. And the fact that I am running away from my house afraid of this kind of harassment after I pay $18,000 contract, it needs to stop.
So between June 25th and June 28th, she disconnected water from my hose without notice and served me for court documents. I feel really bad for her because there's evidence of perjury and she's disconnecting services which the landowner agreed to pay. There's been an obstruction of quality of life. There's abusive behavior for this hose disconnection, and she's not considering my investment of plants and time. She would not give me her lawyer's number. So I don't know what to do. No response to asking for a lawyer. I sent mass message to everybody asking about the hose to turn it back on, please. Jan responds complaining about her water bill. I told her again to stop obstructing my quality of life, to read the lease about water, and that we will discuss her concerns with the judge. I have not heard from her since, but I'm expecting to see her. I had an appointment with my therapist. I had to lower my expectations so low that I must expect that she will put my life in danger and not consider me. I have told the defendant that I will use all of her actions as evidence against her. Even before she tried to evict me, I have told her about the impending rent abatement, discrimination lawsuit, and now criminal harassment charges. Yet she still continues to test the boundaries of our justice system, my human rights, and she has no fear. Not of me, the judge, the system, no fear of anything. My doctor has helped me through this, and I will fight for others like me. I will fight for title acts across Canada for anyone that wishes to own more than 2 units for income, more than 2 single-family homes, or 1 duplex. We will begin to examine, regulate, and revoke all of our property owners, foreign and local, because our health, justice, public safety, and human rights are governed. Doctors, lawyers, architects have title acts. Housing is a human right. Property managers need to be regulated. So this is my house at the time that she evicted me. My garden it was really blooming, really showing off. I have not stopped getting compliments. I can't sit outside for more than 15 minutes without somebody walking by and talking about it. So I have really been able to benefit from that kind of support, and I do feel really welcomed by everybody, including my neighbors, except for Jan's friend, because of what happened between this little throuple that should never have happened. And I never involved Anita personally with this. I never disclosed anything about the lawsuit. I just said that I needed a character reference. I got legal advice, and I know that you're not supposed to disclose the reasons why, and it could have been is something for a resume, and so she had no idea what it was for, and she didn't even ask me what the character reference was for. Actually, she just immediately said no and didn't want to get involved. So I knew that it was evidence of slander and how she responded to all of the great things that I've done for her. And I never even brought up Jan until the very end, because I knew that for sure it had been discussed. And I heard them talking when the floor was removed. So anyways, it's been a mess. And I just, at the end of the day, I feel really bad for my landlord, because I think that if she had any legal advice at all, I don't think this would be happening. And I don't think that she's fit to be a landlord or to be maintaining properties for anybody. And people need licenses to do this. Thanks. So on July 1st, she came by again with no notice to take out the very, very hazardous barbecue. And she took it to the curb finally after I asked, because I told her since May multiple times that it was a dangerous situation. And I showed her, you know, all of these safety messages regarding home safety and insurance and things like that. And she bought the guys upstairs a brand new barbecue. She said that I'm not allowed to use it, and I had to use this fucking rusty one. And she replaces it with another rusty barbecue, which has flaky metal, and I don't want to eat it, so... You know, Jan went on and on about how this was her business and this was all of her income, and how she needed to always do such a really good job at being a good homeowner, and because it's her business. Well, her sole income is this, and I believe that she should be registered as a corporation for sure, okay? If all of your income is based off of something that's governed by a Residential Tenancy Act, then I believe you should be registered as a corporation, okay? And I believe that they should have Title X, and she should be getting a fine for $100,000.